Now,
Living in a great big way.
one more, boy.
Living in a great big way. Louis.
Hey there, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to do a fun little bird tutorial. This is what we're going to work towards. I'm going to take you step by step how to draw this little hummingbird and then how to paint him. Supplies to grab today: grab some watercolors, grab a pencil with a good eraser. I'm going to be using a medium brush and then a teeny tiny brush for the details. Then if you want, you can download the printables on my Substack. You have to be a paid subscriber in order to download them. It's $5 a month or $50 a year. You can download the how to draw the hummingbird and then the actual printable that you can use to paint on. Or you can draw it yourself. I'll teach you how to draw it yourself if you want. But those are available if you want. If you can print these on watercolor paper, if your printer will take watercolor paper, or like a good cardstock is a good option for you. Grab some water, and that's it. Let's get started. Hey there. I am going to show you today how to draw this little hummingbird. Isn't he cute? I want you to notice a couple things about his body. His body is a nice kind of oval shape. Got a cute little head. He's got a long beak, about the same length as his head, and his eye is kind of right in the middle of his head, a little to the left. And he's right here are his little wings on both sides. And then this little area right here is his tail and his tail feathers. And I want you to see his little talons. He's got 3 in the front, 1 in the back. That's how he's holding on to this little stick. He is a beautiful green color on the top and the wings, white with some brown underneath. See a little bit of yellow in there, and he has this beautiful purple reddish coloring under his little beak. So let's get started drawing him. So when I'm drawing, I always have a photo up so that I can have it for reference. And I always start with the largest shape. That way I can size everything else down. And for this guy, I'm going to start with that oval shape that I pointed out of the main part of his body. And I like to sketch really lightly and then slowly darken my lines as I get more sure about where they're supposed to be. And then we're going to add that circle to the top of this shape for his head. And then we're going to take a look and we're going to add this triangle shape for his tail. And then I'm kind of connecting these. Now I'm going to add in those wing shapes. And if you notice, the wings go all the way to the bottom of that tail. And then they start about right here. So this is kind of like an oval pointed at the end. And his other wing is the same. just on this side, it's kind of tucked. In this photo, it's tucked behind his body there, so we can't really see the start of his wing. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get his little beak. And of course, this is going to depend on where the angle that you're looking at, but his beak's going to be about right in the middle. So if like I did like a grid basically of his head, that beak's coming out starting about right here, and then it's coming out about the same, length of his head. And we can draw it to start with just as a triangle. And then in this photo, it actually comes back. And, we can fill in the bottom of that. Right? And then let's go ahead and add his eye. And I find, his eye is just a little left of center. I find that the eye is really important for birds. I feel like that's almost like the window to their little, not that a bird has a soul, but, and I like to keep a small area of it white. It's looking a little bit off to me, so I'm going to move his eye a little more to that center line. This is why we sketch before you paint, because once you've got something off in the sketch, then the whole thing, no matter how, and no matter what colors you do, if the sketch is off, then the whole thing will be off. All right, I think that's good. Now we're going to look at his wings here. And let's go ahead and erase our extra lines. So we don't need that line. And then we can erase the lines in his wings. And then we can erase this line too. And this is where a good quality pencil will be helpful, because certain pencils don't erase well, especially on watercolor paper. So it'll be super frustrating to work with a pencil that doesn't erase well. Okay. You see, I'm just still kind of messing with it. Okay, so now his wings are pretty complicated, but I'm just going to give him a couple simple layers. So there's one layer, and then just kind of looping over, and then they get longer. The feathers get longer, and eventually we're just going to do lines like that. And we can kind of do the same thing on that bottom one. And then we want to give him a little bit of texture here on his hip. And then we want to give him these feathers. They kind of loop like this. And then they all end up there at his beak. And then we need to give him something to stand on. His legs are coming out from about right here. And give him a little branch that's going to go along here, because he needs something for his little talons to hold on to. And your branch could go out different directions. It could have leaves on it. It could be something more like this. And then you just go ahead and erase those extra lines. Alrighty. And one thing about branches is they always start big and get thinner. Sometimes they'll have little knobbies, but generally it will look better if they start thicker and go smaller. But you can do, some texture on the branch if you want. And you can also, kind of sketch in some little feather textures here. All right, we are all sketched out. Let's add some color to this guy. To start off with, I like to give him an interesting background. Let's do some green and some blue and some yellow. And I'm going to kind of do a really, really wet, washy background around him. And I might drop in some different colors so it looks like he's kind of in a wooded area with lots of different textures. I'm just going to get really wet brush and gonna just outline him. Just pulling that color along with the brush, keeping it nice and wet. So I can maybe drop little areas of color in there, giving like a hint of some foliage, some green. If you wanted to, you could, add leaves. You could make it more detailed if you wanted to. It's always good to have a visually interesting background. Don't want to detract from the bird. So when you're choosing background colors, you want to keep in mind the colors that you're going to use for your bird and not choose anything that's going to compete with him, so that your little bird can be the main character. And I'm going to drop a bit of yellow in there. Let's pull some more green back here. Just really wet. Brown. I think this is all going to dry really pretty. So go ahead and pause the video and just enjoy creating this background. And then we'll come back and we'll finish up our bird with some color. And now we're ready to give our little guy some color. I realize I said all that about not doing a color in the background that competes with the color of your main character. And then I realized this guy's green. So I did exactly opposite of what I told you, which is kind of typical. So sorry about that, but let's see if we can make it work. So let's start, when you're building color, let's start with green, because I can build on green. I can add brown on the top, but I want to get like a really nice jewel tone green that's going to contrast with the greens that I did in the background. So I'm going to mix up green, a nice brilliant green, and add a little bit of blue to it. And let's go with that for the wing, and then his head here. Let's do the top part of his head green. I think I need to even go more blue to contrast. Yeah, but that's what we need, like that darker green to contrast with the background. And you can see those pencil lines are showing through. So those are, I'm going to put even more blue. Those pencil lines are giving us some texture. We could come through later with some other colors. I'm going to do, just for his body has some very light green. I'm going to do like really light green wash and maybe some light blue for the body as a base. And then when that dries, I'm going to come in and do that brilliant purpley red color. And that'll be the last thing. I'm going to make this wing dark. And then maybe like even a darker blue. It does read kind of gray in this picture, but I don't want to use gray. for him. I'm gonna, if I'm translating gray and I don't want to use black in my painting, I'll often use a blue, like a dark, almost navy blue. And that'll kind of stand in for a gray. I just prefer not to use black if I can avoid it. That's just I'm gonna drop some blue in the head here. You see I have on my palette I have a couple blues. This is more like royal blue, and this is more like a sky blue, and then I have an indigo blue that I like a lot. I think those are really nice to have. I'm just taking some of that blue and dropping it in the feathers. Then I do think I will use black when I come in later for the beak and the eye. Just kind of use that sparingly. I'm going to dry this up, and then we're going to do those pink feathers. We'll do the little piece of wood and the beak, and then I think we'll be done. My tiniest brush for the little details here. Let's mix up a color for that jewel tone. We want to get a good color. I'm going to start with my rose red. If you see, that's too red. So I'm going to use that royal blue, the royal blue color that I showed you earlier. Ooh, yeah. And I want to keep it pretty thick so that I can get it on there in the detailed way that I want to. Two. Kind of. A little bit more watered out. A little too thick for my taste. Let's drop a little blue. A pretty little bird. That darker. And then let's get his. I'm going to use the black now. Get his beak, his bottom part. It's going to be the darkest. And the top is really a light. You see how that when you get the eye in, it just changes the whole thing? Let's add a little bit of darker green. Kind of get the texture of those feathers. Doing some swipes of darker green here. We could even do some dark blue. I see a lot of brown in this photo that I have, but I'm actually just going to leave the green. I think I like it like this. Simple. And let's go ahead and do the little branch that he's on with some brown. So let's start with some orange, and then let's see what happens when we mix that. Mix some blue. See that? Mixed orange and my dark blue. Go ahead and use that. I may need to give his talons a little swipe of black. Then we could take our brown, darken it up a tone with a little more blue, and then just drop in some areas. Darker brown, especially lower branch. All right, we are all done now. When this dries, I'll probably just add a little black to his feet. Actually, you know what? I like the look of the pencil there. Sometimes the pencil do it. Sometimes I'll go back in, add some pencil lines. Where I want to add some shadows. We're going to stop there. I hope you had fun. Enjoy painting this little bird, and let me see what you did.